and welcome to another Mark 1 in the community feature. And as again, I'm at my desk. It's been a couple of weeks since I've been contacted by anybody wanting to feature their Mark 1 Focus, and I have been approached by a very nice fella called Daniel, who was very enthusiastic. He's been on he's on a couple of the Mark 1 groups. I am very well aware that he's on the Mark 1 preservation group. He's on, I believe, the Mark 1 98 to 2005 group, which is ran by Kev Benton. I have got that correct. He'll kill me otherwise if I don't get that correct. So yeah, we've got a really nice car today, and as they're all nice cars. But this one, Daniel has written a very nice script for me to stick to, and it really does help me make these videos. As you can see, my hair is tarnished. I've just stuck this on because I've just come home from work and I'm up to my eyeballs in, wow, you might want to ask actually, I'm up to my eyeballs in these stickers everywhere. Everybody wants stickers, and I'm having to order more because more people in the group want stickers, and that's amazing because every sticker sold goes toward a club flag. All the profits are going straight back into the actual club, and it is a club. It should be the Mark 1 Preservation Club, but it may change as a name in a couple of years, but it is known as the Preservation Group for now. But I want it to feel like a club, but a club that's free to enter, because I don't believe in charging a membership for such things. The days of newsletters and monthly magazines gone. That's only thing that traditional car clubs tend to do these days. New car clubs basically work off social media, and this is what this group is about. And Daniel has a really nice car here, and we're just going to go straight in there. So this is Daniel's Mark 1 Zetec. It's a 1.6, as most of them are, as featured, because the majority of Mark 1s are 1.6s. And having a 1.6 Zetec is the most common Mark 1 going. If you want engine spec and body style, what's the most common combination? It would be a 1.6 Zetec 5-door hatchback. That's the most common Mark 1 you will see on the roads. So I'm so sorry for every single one of you, including Daniel. I'm afraid your cars are extremely common. But no, they're all not very common now because the numbers are decreasing. But that is kind of how it is. And his car is on 112,000 miles, which is a relatively nice mileage. It's not too low, it's not too high. I would consider that below the average. I would say the average mileage for most Mark 1s, even this one, I mean, this is an 05 plate. So it'd be one of the youngest at 18 years of age or 18 years of registration on the roads. It would probably have done about 130 to 140 by now on an average of 4 to 5,000 miles a year. Obviously, I might have my calculations a bit wrong there, but it's roughly around that. But, you know, it'd be more than that, probably 10,000 miles, something like that. I think 5,000 miles a year. I think that wouldn't get you very far at all. I think that would be less than 100,000 miles. I need to go back to school and do my maths. But he bought the car in the back end of August of last year, 2022, for £700. Wow, that's a bargain. Whatever problems that's got, it can't be massive. It can't be massively complicated, and it just proves time and time again how cheap you can get them for. But this was last August, and that was 12 months ago. And the prices are much higher now than that. I would expect to pay probably £1,000 for this example from what I can see in these pictures. It is ink blue. I did confuse it as smokestone, but I had to look again. I did ask Daniel to confirm it is ink blue. Ink blue is slightly lighter shade of blue than smokestone. Smokestone is almost in between ink blue and panther black. It's that dark. But on some of these pictures, I'm just going to show you a couple. Daniel, are you a photographer or something? Because some of these pictures that you've sent me, or the ones that I'm going to show you guys in a second, they're very good, and the contrast has really dubbed down, so it creates the impression that it's actually a much darker car than what it is. But stunning photographs of some of these, and I'm going to love showing you some of these guys. Basically, the car had a cracked front fog light, but that's easy to change, and a slight rust bubble in the typical spot of the driver's wing top side. Yeah, where it meets the corner of the front bumper. I don't know why they go in that spot. I couldn't explain that why. Mark II Focuses go in exactly the same spot, so they never cured it for that car. I never understood why. It's not as if it gets a build-up of rubbish in that area, but clearly it's a weakness. After going around the car and seeing that the seals and the underneath were pretty good for its age and its mileage, it now just sits shy of 114,000 miles. Oh, okay, 112 when you bought it. Sorry, I read that incorrectly. I couldn't leave it there. The paintwork had sticky handprints all over, so I gave it a full decontamination and a good polish. That's the first thing that I aim to do with every car I buy. You clean it up. Unless there are dirty jobs that are required, then I'd rather get the dirty jobs out the way. For instance, I don't know, anything from changing a CV boot, anything that basically could mean you might put some mucky prints on the paintwork, because it does happen, you know, you're on the floor and then suddenly your knees give in and you're like, oh, use the wing as a leverage. And we've all been there. Just make sure that if you're working on brakes and your brake pipes, don't get brake fluid on your paint. You'll regret it. So yeah, a good polish. It's all good, and I bet you that cut quite fine. And most polishes are quite decent these days. Auto Glim Super Resin Polish is what I recommend. It is a great product for the price point. It is not a massively cutting polish, but it will do a decent job. Any paint rectification, something like semi-decent, like what a body shop might use, you're looking at about 30-40 pounds for some of them stuff. So, and some of them you have to kind of be aware of using properly, because some cut a bit fine and a little bit too fine if you've got thin paint. So his first job was replacing the fog light. And then, as you can see in these pictures, as you can see, very much so, the horrible cloth interior that was badly stained, and basically they are nasty. The cloth material made in a CL, LX, Zetec, they are made from recycled jeans. Yeah, they are made from recycled jeans, and they're not nice. They are. We'll put it this way: you could burn your skin getting in and out on a hot day. That's how nasty they can be. I just don't like the patterns. On the Zetec, on the pre-2003 models, you had this sort of Harlequin, and it would be the Harlequin style seat. And then this is the pattern that you got on 2003 models onwards. I don't actually prefer that. Actually, I prefer the Harlequin. But either one, I just don't like the actual material. The patterns are fine, but it's the material, it's just rubbish. So naturally, he bought an ST170 interior with half levers to match the ink blue paintwork. Yeah, I can understand that. That looks absolutely exactly what it looks as if, actually, to be fair. It should have come out looking like that, maybe somewhat. They should have offered more options, I think. I mean, you just got the option of solid black leather, the same style seats in my Zetec with the big bolsters. But I do wish they'd done something half leatherish on the Zetec models, at least, being the sort of the basic sports spec, the entry level sports spec, and then the ST170 was a bit more than that. But maybe they didn't want to make it too attractive, because what would the appeal be of an ST170 apart from the engine? I think most people bought ST170s for the engine. I don't think they would have cared for a half leather interior, but still, it was a plus point at the end of the day. The mechanical repairs that I've had is the water pump. That's typical at this age, and I'm not being funny, it's very difficult, unless it's a genuine one, to not have failures. The one on mine is a Gates, and I'm quite conscious that it's just not very good, so I may just change that before the next timing belt change, or maybe with it. I've got another 5 years to go. I changed the timing belt on a on a Ford Sigma I would change the time belt every 6 years. And I know that's overkill because Ford say 10 and 100,000 miles, but the truth is that was to impress the fleet managers. Remember, these cars were sold primarily as fleet cars as well. So I think it was more on that side. I think for the benefit of peace of mind, anywhere between 6 to 8 years, regardless of mileage, and then you should be absolutely fine. But I change mine every 6 years, and it will have I think, yeah, I've got another 4 years to go on that. Power steering pump and steering rack replaced. Have you had a leak then, Daniel? Because the only reason a power steering pump would fail on a Mark 1 is if it ran dry. I'm assuming it might have either been the switch that leaked all the fluid, but that's a bit of a weird one. And the steering rack at the same time. So you had wear on the rack and the power steering went. Sounds like the system was a bit low on fluid, which might have been a weeping switch. It is something you really need to check on every petrol and diesel Mark 1 power steering pumps. Check the switches. Make sure that there is no leaking of power steering from that area. If there's any sign of leaking, you need to replace that switch ASAP. You gave her a full service, which is, yeah, you got to do that, you know, just for benefit, you know. So basically, air filter, oil and oil filter, spark plugs, fuel filter. And that's really it. That's your basic service. You can change the pollen filter if you want, and most likely you probably will need to. But I would argue that if it doesn't leak inside the car, maybe just leave it for a bit longer, get a bit more life out of that seal, because when you disturb that seal on the scuttle, you change the pollen filter, getting it back on is a pain, and sealing it back up needs to be done properly. Sometimes it's unsuccessful, sometimes it is, but if your car doesn't leak, I would suggest leaving the pollen filter for just a little bit longer, unless you know for a fact that when you're turning your blowers on, there's not enough air quite coming out. The only thing I didn't like about these cars is they look slightly unfinished from the rear. So I fitted a WRC style chin spoiler and put a third brake light cover to tidy it up. Granted, this isn't to everyone's taste, but to me, as the owner, it looks great. Well, that at the end of the day, you're the owner. It's your money, Daniel, and I think most people will be putting a thumbs up to that, and I'm all for that as well. That is quite an interesting insight, Daniel. You think the back end is rather plain. That is very, very interesting. Well, as I say, I personally think on a Mark 1, there's a lot going on at the back. I think if you've got the two badges either side of your boot lip, your boot handle, and then you've got your number plate, then your boot lock, there's a lot of bits and pieces going on there. I wouldn't necessarily say it's too plain. If you're referring to the top side, then I think it might be. On the Zetecs and the Edge models, you get a bit more of a spoiler on the top of the tailgate, which I think looks really nice. Otherwise, it does look slightly, just a bit, not plain and ordinary, just a bit naturous. Like there's something not quite there. I think that was a word I just made up. I couldn't think of a word, guys. Then the brake light, I like that. Now I've seen, basically that is a cover which just has the inscription Focus dotted out, and it just goes over the rear lamp cluster. And I was considering buying that when I was doing a bit of modifying on my own Mark 1. I was considering going for some of that, but then I realised I think I got to the stage where I'd done too much. And that was at the stage of my U-turn where I thought, nah, I've got to take it back. I really have. My car has led 3 lives. The life it had before I started messing about with it, the life when I messed about with it, and the life it has now. But this was at the stage where I kind of didn't want to put it on mine. Personally, I can understand why people put them on. And it's quite subtle in itself until you put your foot on the brake and you've got that focus in someone's eyes. It's actually quite neat. WRC spoiler has been done before. Yeah, it's absolutely cracking. But as I say, you know, it is your thing. It is not my car. It is your car. And at the end of the day, I don't necessarily think it's too in your face, unless you started doing more and more things. The biggest thing I have with Mark 1s, and I'm afraid, and I'm sorry to all those people that have done this, that are no doubt going to give me a thumbs down, I do not like it when people do the flushed boot look. That's a problem on Mark 1s. It just looks dreadful. I'm sorry. People have spent hours and hours and hours just filling and filling and filling all that chasm where you've got the number plate where the boot sort of comes round and dips in, and they've filled it so it's completely flush. So there's no boot handle, no registration plate, and they put the registration plate either down on the bumper or on the back window. It doesn't look right. Oh no, that is definitely a thing I don't like with people who do that. But it's their choice at the end of the day. But there's some things I don't like. But this is nothing, Daniel. That's quite nice and neat. So no, I'm pleased that you could share that with us. And at the end of the day, it is how it is. The final thing I've done to this car is remove the silver radio fascia, because in some way it's a bit of a distraction when driving. And I found a nice carbon dipped fascia. They're actually quite nice. They are actually the carbon dipped ones. I know that the problem is, Daniel, is you're going to want to carbon dip everything else. So you trim around the gear lever, the trim around the sort of door handle window trim on each of the door cards. There's quite a few other panels that you could do that, and it doesn't stop. The vents as well, it doesn't stop at the fascia. That's an interesting insight, because the silver fascia for me isn't exactly in your face, but maybe it stands out a bit more. The fascia that I have in my Mark 1 is the incorrect colour. I need a silver one actually, but I remember when I bought the car, it did have a silver one. It was trashed. Somebody had taken the radio out and damaged all around the fascia, and that's when I don't like them, because they get really scratched easily. And I didn't think it was in your face, but at the same time, it did stand out in the interior. And I think that was the reason, especially on the Zetec, to make it look a bit more sportier. But, you're going to find it quite interesting, Daniel, because you're going to be doing a lot more things than that. It does not stop with the fascia, I can assure you. And that's where I started, and that's where everybody starts. The fascia on the dashboard is where everyone starts and paints it a specific colour, and then you have to do a colour scheme, and it goes on from there. So be careful about that one. And obviously you've got a duo USB instead of a cigarette lighter. That's always a good thing to add, to be fair, and it makes it more usable. And a single DIN Pioneer stereo with the phone holder built in. Well, that's quite handy actually. It makes it usable, and what I have to appreciate is mine is a museum piece, and for that reason I put the original radio back in. That only really gets medium wave and a bit of FM if you're lucky. It's a bit intermittent on a lot of radio stations. It's CD, the CD player works and all that sort of stuff, but it's not usable. It's got no MP3 attachment. I tell you what I would like to do. I would like to find someone who, and I know there are people around that do a lot of this work, that can make an original Mark 1 radio actually work with Bluetooth, so Bluetooth built into it, and possibly DAB built into it. So there's no external aerials or anything like that. It's actually built into it. And I know people have done those conversions. It costs a lot of money to send it to these people, but there are people around who are skilled enough to do that sort of thing. And I'd certainly look to do it. If I'm doing long journeys in mine with that old radio, then I'd certainly think about it. But for many people, on a cost basis, just to get in something that can fit and be functional, and most of these cars are used as daily drivers. I assume it's a daily driver, Daniel. So you've got all the functionalities there. I can understand that. And it's one of those things. They don't look quite in keeping with a Mark 1 unless you do other modifications to it in the interior. But then again, you've done the fascia, and that kind of blends into it a little bit. There isn't much of a decent space apart from the windscreen to mount a phone holder due to its unmistakable curves. That is something that I and many other people probably haven't even thought of, but it really is something that's in your face all the time. That windscreen is so curved and it goes far. Because if you're sitting in the driver's seat, if I've been doing a cleaning session and I've got my microfiber and I want to clean the windscreen on the inside, because I put all these, you put your suction mounts on for your sat nav and or my cameras, for instance, and it leaves all the circles everywhere, and you can't really see it until the sun comes out and you think, damn, the circles have come back. So you get your microfiber and a bit of water will just do that. That's enough, and a microfiber. It's miles away. The windscreen, the bottom of the windscreen is absolutely miles away. It literally curves all the way that way. And because it's a continuous curve, it's not there is no point in a windscreen on a Mark 1 that goes straight. It curves all the way down. And getting something lined up properly, like a sat nav or for a phone holder, it's a bit difficult, and it does seem to obstruct your view quite a lot of the road. So having phone holders on a Mark 1 that, I don't know, would attach to the vent. The only thing is with the vent ones is the vents will come forward with the weight. You can't really do that on a Mark 1. So you have to find out a couple of different ways of doing it. So this would be a beneficial one. But we all know what you mean by that curved windscreen. It's a fantastic feature on a Mark 1. You do think where you sit in a Mark 1 as the driver, you sit 50% of the way down the car. Now on most cars, on most hatchbacks, you probably sit about 30 to 40% of the way towards the back of the car from the front. But in a Mark 1, you're sitting halfway down the car because of how blob it is at the front. It's quite interesting, but you wouldn't think that would work, but it has. And a big geek moment which he wants to reveal: I have made a personal friend with an executive member of the staff from Ford, and they are getting a spec list made of my own car from the factory. Wow, you will be happy with that. I think I need something for mine on that side. I do want to tint the rear windows in time and fit 17-inch alloys. Again, a personal preference. That's for the future. That's quite interesting. Tinting rear windows. Well, just make sure it's the rear ones, not the front ones, because on a Mark 1 you can't tint them at all unless you want to go slightly illegal. And I've seen all sorts of wacky windscreens around recently, and I don't like half of them. I really don't. But on a Mark 1, they did it on a Mark 3. They offered it as an option, or as actually a standard thing on Mark 3 Focuses on the titanium, where it would be literally blacked out. But the 17-inch alloys, now, is that MP3 alloys, by the way, because they are getting hard to get hold of. If not, well, just make sure it looks in keeping with the car, I would say. That's the only advice that I would give there, and to anybody else wanting to mess around with the wheels on their car, a few bits and pieces. But we're just going to look a few of these photos. I mean, this photo is absolutely amazing. 1111111. Yeah, I think we're all going to take a photo when we get to that sort of mileage. It doesn't matter whether I'm stuck on if I'm in the M42 and I get that sort of reading, I'm going on the hard shoulder for just 30 seconds, taking that photo and getting back on the motorway, and the police will be like, "Why did you pull over, sir?" I was like, "I just wanted all the numbers were the same. I just wanted a photo." "Oh yeah, that's fine. You can go on your way." The other thing is about this photo is the LED. Now the cluster lights are LEDs, and you can solder LEDs back in if they blow, if they don't work. So if you're handy with a soldering iron, it's not too much of a faff. I'm not sure what LEDs they use. Somebody can probably tell me that, but I don't think they're that nice. I think it was just a little bit of Ford trying to modernise bits and pieces of the car, because I think the old bulb lights probably looked a little bit late 90s, and this is 2005. So yeah, I mean they started doing it from 2003 onwards. I mean they just tried to make it look a little bit more modern, or maybe the manufacturer of their original clusters maybe wasn't manufacturing them at all for whatever reason. They had to go to somebody else and they did LEDs instead. I don't know. There would have been a good reason for that. But just a couple of photos here, and it looks an absolute peach of a car, Daniel. I can't see any dents or scrapes. It's really straight, and I think you'd have a lot of people who would offer at least £1,000 for a Focus like that. I mean, looking at some of these photos, I think that who doesn't like snow foam? I mean, that's just cracking, isn't it? And again, you know, just the rust bubbling there, and that's just nothing, absolutely nothing. Another snow foam shot, and as I've said before, snow foam makes a Mark 1 look, it gives off all the intricate lines at the back, particularly the semi-elliptic groove over the arches, which is just such a charismatic line, a line that's kind of stops and fades as it goes down. You've got a swage line that goes through both the door handles up to the rear quarter and then round to the boot, and then links in with the boot handle. Just stunning, stunning. A couple of photos, one outside a Ford dealership, which has been highly contrasted. I think that's a good photo, that is. Another one here, beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, definitely, really nice, that one. This one, it's just stunning. It's absolutely stunning. Some of these shots are absolutely amazing. Oh, we got a bit of snow. We've got to add a bit of snow in there. I think we all do the snow shot. Yep, absolutely. And just a couple of final ones to finish off. This is the best one of the lot, and there was no mistaking that was going in as a thumbnail. That is just stunning. This was what was this taken with? Is this, are you a photographer, Daniel? Because that is a stunning shot. I wish I could get someone to take shot. You know, I actually need to book a photographer for my car at some point, because once I've got it looking really nice, I will want some professional shots taken. If any of you are a photographer or know a photographer, then I might need your services. Yeah, that might be handy, that will, because I would love some professional shots taken of my car. But that's stunning. And what I love, the only thing I would say, Daniel, is replacing the 15-inch Zetecs with 17-inch ones. I just love the look of well-kept Zetec alloys. The silver, when they're clean, really clean, and you can polish your wheels, by the way. You can polish your alloys to see if they look and come up any better. I'm going to have a go at polishing my wheels at some point just to see if they'll come up any more. Trust me, polishing your alloys can go a long way. So, and the contrast is, when you've got a dark car, Panther Black's the best with Zetec alloys. Mine looks amazing with it. But ink, you know, it's smokestone blue. There's a few other colours, deep colours. They go really well with the Zetec alloys. It just contrasts it so nicely. They're just really sporty. So yeah, just think about if you really want an upgrade to 17-inch wheels, because that's, for me, they're just smart as they are, but you know, it's their own. Now, these are stunning photos, and this would have been built, I suspect, quite early 2005, because I suspect Mark 1s were not produced beyond around January, February, and then the last ones that I can record were registered around May the 30th, 2005. There are Mark 1s that were sitting in dealerships for many years. There's one on an 06 plate that I'm aware about. There's one on an 07 plate. And according to my data that I get from the DFT, there are one or two variants that there's a 2009 registered LX somewhere, and it's still on the road. So there are some oddities, but pretty much the 30th of May 2005 was the cut-off point. So it depends how late this was registered, Daniel. As I say, that'll be quite interesting information to know once this video is done. But I'm going to leave this here, because I just don't want to roll on too much. But that is a stunning car for absolute nothing. And judging what you've said, I would still value the car at a solid £1,200. The only reason why I wouldn't value it as more is because you've changed a few bits. However, the good thing is all the bits you've changed could be reversed with a little bit of investment and a little bit of time. They're not irreversible, and that's the main thing. The one thing that we have to think about is that if we want to keep these cars on the road, No matter how long we think we want to own these cars for, we are custodians. We are the custodians for the next owner. It's as simple as that. So you do have to be aware about not changing too much, because otherwise you make a car that is your own imprint. It's yours. You made that. But you've changed so much that it becomes unattractive for anybody else to want to own. It's as simple as that. And also, it's a question of, well, it feels like I'm buying somebody else's design. It's not my car. And that's why, from a buyer's perspective, if you want to move the car on, just make things reversible. Wheels can be reversed, spoiler can be reversed, the third light, brake light can be reversed, the seats can be reversed. Obviously, you'd have to get the correct seats, but they're still obtainable for now. And that's it. But anyway, thank you very much, Daniel, for sharing your wonderful Mark 1 with us. It is a stunning car. I just can't see any imperfections on it. And as I say, a Mark 1 without any dents, scrapes or major imperfections. Yeah, we got a slight rust bubble, that's nothing. We're looking at least £1,200, more than that, if depending on the state of the paintwork. But I would say 1,200 is the floor at which you could expect to buy a Mark 1 in this sort of condition, guys. Anyway, I'll leave you there. You take care, guys. I will see you very soon in another video.